Welcome, humans, to the Neuron AI Explained. Today, we're talking about the computers behind AI and how to make smart choices if you plan to buy one soon.
We're going to cover what specs actually matter, where marketing can mislead you, and how to future-proof your setup, whether you're editing video, prompting generative models, or trying to just keep up with AI in daily work.
Logan Lawler, host of the Reshaping Workflows podcast with Dell ProMax and NVIDIA RTX GPUs, is joining us today. Logan, welcome to the Neuron.
What's up, man? Corey, Grant. I feel like it's been months since I've seen you. I guess
been
it was
forever.
Just the other day. Just the other day, actually. But no, appreciate you having me on. Really excited. As we were talking about before the episode, longtime fan of the Neuron, and found them very early. And we can talk more about this. We found them very early, and it's been great. The level of quality and knowledge y'all deliver is great, and excited to be on the podcast.
And we're excited to have you, man. So,
definitely.
I think to start, I'm going to ask the obvious question here. So we see the phrase AI PC everywhere. What is it?
Oh,
is
God.
this marketing jargon? Is this an actual change in how PCs operate?
Oh, man. I mean, you have to ask the most convoluted question that we wrestle with at Dell internally all the time. And I'm going to give you kind of a two-part answer.
Okay.
Because I believe there is kind of what I'm trying to think of a good example here, but it's kind of like there's what the market has defined as what an AI PC is. And then there's a functional difference between what I would say is an AI PC versus an AI workstation. So we'll start there. So how do people in the industry typically define like an AI PC? Like if you're watching a Dell Technologies commercial, you're watching HP commercial, watching Lenovo commercial, an AI PC is any PC, whether that is, a desktop or a mobile, that has some sort of AI acceleration silicon in it somewhere.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily really talk about how many TOPS, how good it is. Is that an NPU versus a GPU, or is that something else? So broadly, when you're watching an ad or you see something, you're out and about or watching something on TV, and you see AI PC, it just means a computer that has some sort of silicon that, accelerates AI. Majority of the time, though, is about 95% means an NPU. And we can get more into this, but an NPU is not a GPU. And the two are not created equally. The way that I think about it, I'll go back to when I was taking the LSAT back in the day, is all AI PCs, all AI workstations are AI PCs, not all AI PCs are AI workstations. And I'll break it down for you.
Okay.
So I lead Dell ProMax AI solutions at Dell. So it is a workstation class system, meaning very high CPU compute, very high GPU compute, etc. So if you have an NVIDIA card in that, and that is the Pro, that's another distinction, not a gaming card, not a GeForce, not a 5090 or 4090 or whatever. It is an RTX Pro Blackwell GPU. That is an AI workstation, which is what your data scientists, AI developers, and most people typically that are developing AI are using. Now there is an AI PC, which what I would say is an AI PC is for at home and a little bit of work for the traditional knowledge worker that has an NPU ranging from 13 TOPS up to 40, where you can offload some of that inference to the NPU for applications that you've installed on your computer.
Gotcha. So well, I actually want to ask something first.
Sure.
What is an NPU? What is a GPU? Can we just define those things for our audience who might not know?
Absolutely. So a GPU is a graphical processing unit. They've been in systems for a long time. NVIDIA has been around for a long time. If you have a PC for gaming, that is a GPU. If you were into Bitcoin mining or any sort of cryptocurrency mining, you are also using a GPU. And now with AI or data science, you're also using a GPU. So it is kind of the base layer that allows, parallel compute, leveraging CUDA, et cetera, to go out and do these, as I go, the combinations, permutations, all the data to make it work. An NPU is very similar. And those are made, for example, there's Intel, there's Qualcomm. Most of those are living or a subset. It's not a dedicated, okay, the GPU is dedicated VRAM that is separate from your system memory.
Yes.
An NPU generally, and I'm giving kind of broad because it kind of depends on the vendor, but an NPU is a separate device that kind of sets within the CPU architecture that will leverage your VRAM to a certain extent to go do that AI processing. So the
Okay.
real big difference between an NPU is, think GPU is really for the massive compute and
Mhm.
like the making of AI, or an NPU is like, hey, I have Copilot and I don't want it to run slow. I want an NPU. Or, hey, I do small little things. Hey, NPU. So NPU, GPU, most computers now on the market will come with an NPU.
Okay.
It's almost like
Gotcha.
industry standard now. At least I think. I mean,
Yeah.
all of our new, Dell Pro, all of them come with an NPU almost, but not every computer comes with a GPU.
Right. But the Dell Pro Max series with NVIDIA does come with GPUs.
Yeah,
So,
oh,
and
absolutely. I
those,
mean, it
yeah.
comes both
Yeah.
fixed and mobile, from
Yeah.
the entry level 500 series all the way up to the Big Daddy, the 6,000 Blackwell, 96 gigs of RAM that will like literally shoot a rocket into space.
Geez, that sounds awesome.
Man.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about a tool that's completely transformed how I personally work. That's WisprFlow. Imagine being able to write full articles, emails, even take complex notes just by talking. That's what WhisperFlow lets me do. It's hands-free writing that's smart, accurate, and ridiculously fast. For me, it solved a decade-long problem. I used to cover baseball as a beat reporter and had to file my story deep in the middle of the night. I always wanted a quality dictation tool that would let me get started on the way home. I wanted to be able to just talk my ideas into a doc. I tried several tools, they all came up short. But with WhisperFlow, I can dictate an entire piece, have it cleaned up, and file all while I'm on the go. No more waiting to get back home, fire up a laptop in the middle of the night to rush something out. I was able to take time that I already had and use it. But it's not just about accessibility, it's about productivity. You'll save hours, get your thoughts down instantly, and stay in flow without breaking a note. So, whether you're a writer, a founder, or just someone who needs to capture ideas quickly and accurately on the go, WhisperFlow makes it effortless. Seriously, you're going to want to check this one out. You'll wonder how you ever worked without it. It's available on Mac, Windows, and iPhone. Visit whisperflow.ai/neuron today and get started for free. That's whisperflow.ai/neuron. Tell them the neuron sent you.
So, why would you say that pros need these AI capabilities on their desktop as opposed to cloud servers? Like, where's the benefit?
Oh
Where's the
man.
gain?
Okay. Let me break it down this way. Is that, and I'm going to use, and when I say a pro, I'm talking about, think of your traditional corporate office worker, right? Anywhere from someone who is a bookkeeper to someone running marketing or whatever it is, right? There are a lot more things that are leveraging AI in your typical workflows that you don't even see. For example, Copilot is an AI thing, and if you have the right NPU, it can run locally. For example, we use other tools at Dell to help, do some sales and marketing stuff. That all requires, an acceleration, right? But you're not with an NPU. The reason why I think everyone needs an NPU, not everyone, I mean, yes, of course, like, big fan of NVIDIA, everyone needs a GPU, but really everyone kind of needs an NPU because it's the way that AI is accelerating in terms of just stuff that's happening, is that without that, you are kind of limiting yourself because you don't buy a laptop or a desktop for it to run a year. You buy it to
Mm.
last 3 to 4, or if you're my parents, like 27 years. Like, if you're not buying, I mean, seriously, like when you're buying it,
Yeah.
you want to future proof it, and having something like an NPU. But the GPU is very different. Like, it never hurts to have a GPU. And I'll make this other distinction too, and we'll come back to this. Well, actually, we'll probably go more into this. But if I was to recommend right now what anyone listening would need, now there's specialized people, data scientists, AI developers, all that. You know what you need. I'm not talking to you. I am talking to everyone else. Is I would look at systems for two reasons. I would look at one that has an NPU, but I would also looking at a GPU, because those architectures and how they accelerate are very different. For example, yeah, you can use an NPU with comfy UI, but you know what? It's slow. It's going to take, instead of 16 seconds, depending on what you're doing, 20 seconds, like it's going to take, I think the test I ran off of an NPU to deliver the same image with with the GPU, with the 48 gig, it was like 20 some seconds. With just the CPU, like an i9 core, it was like an hour.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't
It
doubt
was
it.
Yeah, it's a big
ridiculous. Like,
difference.
I had to walk away. And the only reason I knew it was an hour is because, the Cuff UI status bar and command line was telling me, like, it's going to be an hour. And I'm like, oh, dear God. And I just walked away.
And for people who don't know, Comfy UI is basically the tool for running local image and video models on your computer. Yeah, so that's what that is.
It is. I use it all the time and love it, and I'm running it through a Dell Pro Max, which is wonderful. It's made a big difference on my end as far as getting that extra speed, and I always joke it's a trade-off of patience and quality. How long am I
Right.
willing to wait for as good as I want, and trying to find that medium there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
having a GPU then helps increase the level
Yeah.
of both of those.
Essentially, for the
reduces the
same
amount
time,
of
I get better
patience you need.
quality.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
Correct. And
Right.
it opens up a whole host of other things, right? Like,
Yeah.
for example, how many of us on here have been like, hey, I want to hook up my laptop to my TV to stream something? Having
Right.
a GPU makes that much easier, have a higher quality output, etc. Like, how many of you have been like, hey, I want to stream something live on my computer? Having a GPU, not that you can't do it with a discrete, an integrated CPU, like, or an integrated GPU, like an Intel, whatever it is, Arc or whatever. Of course you can do it, but for a nominal amount, you're future-proofing it, and it kind of opens up just a better experience, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely. I agree. So, I want to ask a question about, I know Dell has rebranded its Precision line to Pro Max.
Yes, yes.
What does that kinda signal about, the future of PCs?
Well, I wasn't in those conversations, but I was tangentially kind of around the edge of those conversations. And it's an interesting question because at Dell, let me talk about previously. Previously, if you bought a Dell, any client device from us, we had very different and separate brands. We had Inspiron, we had Alienware for gaming, but we also had G Series for gaming. We had Vostro, which was an Inspiron, but that was designed for business. We had Precision, which was a workstation, but we had an XPS that also had a GPU, but that wasn't for gaming. And we had Latitude, which was our corporate. We had all these disparate brands. And when Dell did kind of the study and market research, when people ask like, hey, what model do you like? What system do you have? They always said Dell. That very few knew like, oh, I had a Precision, even though Precision was one of the higher recalls along with the XPS and Latitude. But is that everyone remembered Dell, but they didn't necessarily know the brand.
Yeah.
And the problem with
Right.
brands, when you have separate brands, you have separate teams, you have separate people leading them, and there's going to be bleed over, right? Like, for example, we had G Series, which is a gaming, had a GeForce card in, but we also had Alienware. But those kind of creep in, like, what do you buy, to the point where you are going to Dell.com and you're like, hey, I want something with an i7 32 gigs. And you could have bought a computer with every single one of those options from every brand.
Yeah.
And like, at that point, you're like, well, what am I buying? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was just too
Yeah.
much. It was
Yeah.
too much. So
Right.
when we did the rebrand, it was announced at CES. We kind of broke it down into, well, Alienware remains, because obviously everyone knows
Yeah.
Alienware for gaming, but we have
Yeah.
Dell, which is just Dell. And that is for kind of homeschool play, right? That
Yeah.
is, something you'd have as a personal device at home, something your kid takes to school, just something my parents would use, etc. You have Dell Pro. So think Dell Pro as in professional. That is your traditional, both desktop and laptop, your managed IT device inside a corporate environment, a business, the security, reliability, etc. And then you have Dell Pro Max, which is me. So max performance, and basically, design, very different. And then the other thing that they did, as we're still kind of going through the rebranding, because we have, different development cycles for products and stuff. But
Yeah.
the other thing that was interesting is that problem I told you, where you could go get in this, every single spec for all the brands. It's not the case. Like previously in Precision, you could get our mobiles were the 3, 5, 7 series. Well, you could get this 5000 ADA card in both the 5 and the 7 series. Now you can't. In our premium line, you can only go up to the 3000 Blackwell. But if you want like the 5000 Blackwell 24 gigs and a mobile GPU, which is insane, you have to go to the Plus. So it really, based on what you need, it will very quickly direct you into what we need. And so far, because some customers have been buying forever, been like, I love my Latitude or I love my Precision. It's all the same stuff. It's just designed to make it a little easier to source what you need.
That's awesome.
Gotcha. Well, specifically about like the future of PCs, right? Like, are we seeing a true shift in how computing power is used for AI workflows with what's going on right now? And to put a larger framing on it, there was a great interview with Mark Andreessen on the Cheeky Pint podcast, and he basically said like comparing AI to the dot-com boom is probably the wrong comparison. You should be comparing it to the PC era and like when PCs first hit the market and really started to take off because he calls this computing V2. And
Yep.
that sounded right to me, but I'd like to get your take
I
on that.
think, and I didn't listen to that, but I mean, I think it's right, because the dot-com boom is kind of implying a bust, and I don't think within AI and compute there'll ever be a bust. I think there might be, a slowdown, but compute. I mean, if you think about like in your life, tell me one day that you did not use some sort of computing power.
Mm.
Think about it.
Your
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
microwave.
okay, well, depending on which microwave you have, like it also has a chip. So does your car. Like all these things, like, and people just don't really know it or see it unless you like read or like you're exposed to it. But
Yeah.
there's computing and everything to the point where if there's a microburst, we are all in serious trouble. Like,
Wait,
at EMP, like we're in serious trouble. Everything would shut down. Everything runs off some sort of chip, some sort of silicon,
Right.
and when you coming back to your original question, kind of in the cloud, right? Is I and nothing wrong with the cloud. Like, I mean, we, work with AWS and Azure and all this kind of stuff. But focusing at local, here's kind of what I've seen the arc be is at first, first off, I'm here to say, if you're out there doing anything with that, if you want to run Comfy UI, you want to run anything, that first time you install it, I'm not super technical. I have become so. You're going to want to rip your brains. You're going to rip your eyeballs out.
yes.
Like the first time you ever try to launch something from command line and like you're like, "Doo-doo-doo-doo," you're going to be like, I don't even know what this
What
says. I'm
have
just
I
used to
done?
clicking on something and going, right?
It's
And
facts. Yeah.
it's facts. It becomes easier. So I'm here to tell you, like, don't stop, keep going, because like the world is pretty cool once you kind of figure some of this stuff out. But for the compute, is when I look back, say maybe 2 years ago, I would have to say a lot of these like cloud GPU farms, they got it right. They made it really easy. Like it made it super simple because everyone kind of knows, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have experience in, you know, AWS and being able to do it and just spin up a virtual machine. They know how to do it. It's simple. It's there. And I think that made it very easy, which kind of like, I would say kind of accelerated kind of a PC 2.0. But now people are kind of starting, at first, people didn't really ask questions. And I think the questions are starting to come is like, and nothing is not that it's not secure or whatever, but whoa, I wasn't expecting that bill. Or B, oh, where's my data going? And from a corporate standpoint, which is mostly what I work with, within Dell Technologies, is those are the questions now being asked. And I don't think it's a bust on that front, but I have seen, I can't tell you how many conversations I've seen or different, AI companies, that are like started natively in the cloud. And because they're working with big companies, they've had to move either on-prem local, whether it's a workstation or a data center or whatever. So I truly think kind of what the arc is like cloud really accelerated. I'm not going to say we're in a slowdown because we're not, but now we're kind of figuring out what local looks like. And
Mhm.
when we figure out what that looks like, I think there'll be kind of another rise. So like I think it's an upward to the right, but I'm not sure is that 20%, 30% or what it is. And it makes it more complicated, honestly, in my humble opinion. And not complicated, this is a good thing, but I'll give you a perfect example. Chat GPT's OSS model, right? Like if you go back 6 months ago, the best desk side GPU that you could get from NVIDIA was the NVIDIA RTX Pro, or the NVIDIA RTX Pro 6008. It had 48 gigs of VRAM. You could not load that on there completely unquantified. It wouldn't fit. Now,
Right.
now with the 96 gig Blackwell, now I haven't tested it, but it's pretty close from what I've seen. That
You're
was
talking
never
about the
possible.
120
Yeah,
billion parameter
yeah,
version, the
yeah,
full one? Yeah.
exactly. You're pretty close. Like you're pretty close. And
Wow.
now that you're almost pulling, and then that's going to be kind of the next wave, I think. And I know this is a weird answer, convoluted, but I think
No,
the
this is
next
great,
wave,
and I have follow-ups, but it's
you
good.
follow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think the next wave is, you kind of had cloud. Now we're kind of like data center. And I think it's like truly local device because I mean,
Yeah.
that 96 gig Blackwell, I mean, it's basically an H100
Yeah.
and a
Right.
desktop under your feet. So
That's crazy.
as that continues to accelerate, I think that that'll be kind of the next wave. But yeah, I mean, local compute is doing stuff that I mean, 6 months ago was not possible.
Yeah.
Was just you just like, nope, got to go to the data
And I
center.
think the same is true on the model side, right? Like, not only did OpenAI release the 120 billion version, they also released a 20 billion version.
Right.
And Google has been releasing a lot of, small or that level
Gemma
of stuff or
3N, for
smaller.
example.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gemma 3N, like really, really small models that allegedly some of which you could even run on a phone. I mean, how
Right.
you do that, I think, is still a little bit.
I have no
People are
idea.
like, yeah, you can in theory, but we don't know how. But there was like two things that I wanted to follow up on that. First is the cloud point. There was a great take. I'm forgetting who it was, but I'll credit them when in the comments. Who was basically saying like we spent all this time putting all of our computing to the cloud, but then it sort of like defeats the purpose of the internet being like decentralized, right?
Right.
And that like now all of a sudden everything is like going off to like these
Yeah.
couple providers, and it doesn't create that resiliency. To your point, if like something gets hit, like, oh, does the whole eastern seaboard go down, depending on where the data centers
Right.
are? We don't know.
We don't know.
So there is a very good reason to try and have as much localized compute power as possible. And to my earlier point, the models are also getting smaller. They're getting
Right.
not only smaller but better when they're smaller, which is a very exciting thing to see. And I think that the more that we specialize into niche models, the more that we'll see smaller models get used.
Even specifically for
In my
various fields and industries.
Yes. Agreed.
yeah,
And I think that's kind of another wave that is coming, right? Is that we talk about, hey, these models, right? We talk about, whatever it is, name your model, whatever. But I think the age that we're starting to see and what's cool about local compute and what it can do, specifically in the Pro Max and others, right, is that people don't really talk, and it's kind of surprised me. People don't talk about, hey, this really small model from Google or this, but hey, how many of those small models can I load on one GPU that's under my feet? And can I do vision? Can I do generative? Can I do this? Can I do research? Where I built this, not agentic workflow, but this multimodal workflow
Yeah.
from smaller models that was purely only possible in the cloud, and no one ever talks about that. And I think it's so
right.
interesting because it's with model size, it doesn't matter to me. It can be big, it can be small, but it's really you have to have the right model for the right purpose. It's like I always make the joke
Yes.
when I'm talking, I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna go, and cut my steak, I'm not gonna take a katana and cut my steak in half, right? But like
Though that
if
would be sick if you
that
did.
would be sick. I mean, it would be awesome, and it would probably get a lot of laughs, but I use a steak knife, right? So use the right purpose-built thing for what you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the people, I mean, I hear about this all the time. And this might not be the right audience, but like a corporate audience, they're always like, should we train my own model? And I was like,
Mhm.
absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. Do you have a nuclear power plant at your disposal? Like, are you going to
Right.
be able to hook up a server farm to a nuclear power plant? Because that's what Microsoft's doing at 3 Mile Island to train models. And the answer is no. Like,
Yeah.
think about RAG, think about potentially fine tuning something, like do that. But there's other ways. It's like building your own model. Like, listen, like Meta and OpenAI, they are so far ahead that just no.
Nothing you build
Because
is
it'll be
going to be as good
deprecated.
as the
It
worst
would.
thing they have. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah.
the very first thing they probably built, yours will be junk. And you have to go hire a bunch of people or contract it out. And there's just not enough data scientists in the world for everyone to start being a model builder. Like
Right.
there's just not enough. Like I can't go build a foundational model.
I guess the
Yeah.
counterpoint though is like what if you do have a really niche use case that you think, you don't need like incredible data, gigawatt level data centers to do. You can technically train your own model on like a workstation or a series
Well,
of workstations.
there's
And what
great
yeah, go ahead.
question. So when I say train, I'm talking like foundational model, OpenAI, Meta, Google level.
Yeah.
What you're
Right.
kind of referring to is fine tuning. And I'll give you a perfect example of something I did on a Pro Max. And it's a stupid use case, but I think it's so cool because it highlights the fact of what you can do on a workstation, right? As I was working with one of my partners, can't really name them, but they were working with basically a gravel quarry. And the way the gravel quarry operates is they sell rock by size, right? So it's 3-inch limestone or pebble or whatever. And the way that their model worked with their contract with this other company was, hey, we're going to buy a load of rock and it has to be within 10% of, I mean, it has to be 90% 3-inch rock approximately, or we get that load for free.
Mm,
And if it is above 90%, they pay the full thing of the load, right? So very old school industry, right? Like not a lot of AI in it.
Yeah.
And they were losing a lot of money because this other company was like, well, this is, I mean, I don't know if they were going in and like picking rocks out of the dump truck to validate that it was under 90% or whatever. I don't know. But
right.
the use case was, hey, can we take a Promax, put it at the edge out in the quarry? Can we hook up a Broadcom camera to it? And
Ooh.
the question was, is that we use, YOLO and some other models and stuff, but it did not know what a rock was. It did not know what, I mean, it knew what a rock was, but it didn't know what a 3-inch rock was. So what we did is
Right.
we fine tuned it to learn what is a 3-inch rock and what is not. So that was my part. That was the A part. That was me. But then there's some
That's
software
awesome.
stuff that went in. But moral of the story is it was able to start and then run, and it was taking, I can't remember the Broadcom camera. It was like, I don't know, so many pictures a second. Like it was like hundreds. And moral of the story is at the end, this is a software component, it would tell the driver, hey, this load is good to go or it's not. And if it
Wow.
wasn't, they went and dumped it into like a mixed pile that they got 50 cents on the dollar for. So very cool use case you would never thought of, but that's what I mean. You can absolutely fine tune a model and where you're not teaching it everything, you're teaching it something very specific to understand not what a rock is, but what does a 3-inch piece of limestone rock look like?
Yeah.
Right, because you only need it for that very specific
Very
use case for your
specific
business.
purpose.
Yeah, we're
Correct.
not talking
Yeah,
about
that's
science labs here.
fascinating.
That's the rock industry. You
Yeah.
know?
No, I mean, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Quick tangent about that. I wrote for a company once that was doing basically the equivalent of that, but for drones. And so they
Hmm.
have these like automated drone swarms that
Okay.
basically can survey different like let's say like in the transport industry, for
Okay.
example, like, basically figuring out inventory levels,
Yep.
checking grain, all that sort of stuff. They run on this sort of autonomous loop and they basically are trying to figure out all of these things, like how much inventory do we have? Like, is there any theft going on? Really sick. There's
It's
so many cool things you can do with that.
exactly. And then that's just training whatever vision model it is to learn what is a theft? What does an inventory mean? Like,
Yeah.
is it, can I see this? Can I see that? I'm just making stuff up. Is it, hey,
Across
when
all
I,
different form
yeah,
factors,
exactly.
grain,
Exactly.
rock,
Right. Exactly.
cargo. Yeah.
And that's not hard. I mean, you're feeding in, representative examples of that, and you have very much a human in the loop to say yes, no, maybe so, and you're ultimately training it out. And no one is going to use or even know what I'm talking about. But the very first machine learning that I used personally was back, it would have been 2009. There was this company at Dell I was leading. So weird. Social media listening back when like it wasn't a thing where we were going to like boardreader.com and looking for people complaining about Dell. Well, we worked with a company which was called Radiant 6, it ultimately got bought by Salesforce, where they would scrape every social media platform. So it was much like Google, but it would scrape social media to be able to then query against, like, hey, someone said Dell, we could respond to them or whatever. But there was another tool called
Mm,
Crimson Hexagon, where the biggest issue we always had with Radiant 6 was sentiment. It would be like, what is positive, what is negative? And there was no algorithmic thing to it. It was like, here's the words that are bad. Here's the words that are good. And if they use good or bad, we know if it's going to be good or bad, right? Well, someone would say, man, that's a bad
That's right.
PC. That thing's cooking. Probably positive, right? But we used the bad word. It was negative. Anyways, so I'll tell you is that Crimson Hexagon, the way that they did it, and this is much like AI, and I use this example all the time, is it would show you an example and say, hey, this PC
Yeah.
is, bad, man, it's cooking, it's great, or whatever. You would then say, is this positive? Is this neutral? Is this negative? And you would tune about 20, 30 examples, and then it would apply kind of machine learning across that to be able to say, hey, here's what we believe based on what you said is
Yeah.
this. And that's really fundamentally what AI is. It is you basically having someone, data science background, basically say, this is what this is. And then you're looking at the output of that and you're kind of validating. It's kind of the same thing when you use Copilot. It says, was this correct? Was this a good generation?
Yeah.
Every time you say that, that's just kind of a feedback in the loop to your question
Yeah,
that ultimately goes back to the data
exactly.
scientists to make AI better.
You know how AI coding agents feel fast until you're stuck fixing their code and realize it would have been quicker to just do it yourself? Warp changes that. It's an agentic development environment, a new kind of tool that makes working with coding agents effortless. Warp connects to your code base, understands your context, and uses the best models from GPT-5 to Claude Sonnet 4.5 to generate production-ready code from the jump. And when you do need to step in, Warp's built in code review and editing tools make it seamless. You can see diffs, reprompt, or make quick changes right alongside the agent. No tool switching, no wasted time. That's why over 700,000 engineers from companies like Netflix, Ramp, and Amazon are already using Warp to save hours each week. So if you're ready to go from prompt to production faster, check it out at warp.dev. Something I've been mulling for a while, with regard to buying a new computer is what is the bigger risk right now? Is it underbuying? Is it overbuying?
Underbuying. Underbuying, I mean, without a doubt. And, I mean, without a doubt. And I mean, I'll give you a good example, right? Is that uh, Copilot, for example, Microsoft Copilot is there's kind of the cloud version, and then we have the local kind of running version, right? But that requires an NPU, I think, and I'm going to butcher. It's either 40 tops or 30 tops. It's more than just what was coming out earlier, which was like 10 or 12 or 20 or whatever. And if you kind of bought that system and you didn't get a GPU to supplement,
Yeah.
y- I mean, what are you going to do, right? Like, and I think it's a thing where, I mean, I'm trying to like, I'll give you kind of a good example is that when I bought my last car, and I don't buy cars, I buy them new and then I drive them till the wheels fall off. But I always buy the very best model that I can. So in 2018, this will seem normal to all of you now, but it had parallel parking,
Heck yeah.
it had lane assist, it had crash detection. Now, that is standard on all of today's cars, where when I tell people, "Oh, I got that," they're like, "Logan, I bought a car like 2 years ago. That was all standard. That's like free stuff."
Yeah.
But in 2018, that was really but we didn't know, right? And it's kinda like
Yeah.
with the PCs is that I'm not telling you to go out and buy the top of the stack. What I'm telling you is if you've never bought a GPU ever, go and make that one small couple $100 upgrade to an RTX Pro Blackwell and get yourself 4 or 8 gigs of VRAM. And I promise you, you're going to really be glad that you did, because with that, you're now going to be able to do things that one, you've never been able to do, but two, 3 or 4 years down the road,
Yeah.
your computer will still be very functional. Like from a hardware perspective, especially with models getting smaller and things like this, you'll be able to
Yeah.
use that for a very long time. And it's much like your phone. Like with your phone, same thing. It's like, I want to get the best phone I can because I know that I'm going to get a bigger hard drive, because I know that my daughter is going to get hold of my phone. She's going to take a
Yep.
1,000 pictures and it's going to be full and I'm going to be pissed off about it. And so that's why I get something big to protect myself down the road. And it's like, that's what I'd say. Overbuying is rare. But I'd also say the risk, I mean, yeah, if you've got the money, overbuy. And I'm not just saying that because you're okay. Like you're not like in an F, like if you were saying, hey, like I want to go buy this, I don't know, F1 car. And if you take it on an F1 track, it's going to go 200 miles an hour, however fast they go. But it doesn't really make sense to go in and buy it for a street legal vehicle, because you're only going to go 35 miles an hour. But with AI specifically, the more VRAM you go, there's not a limit on it. Like there's not a limit. Having more means one more you can do, the faster that you can go, the more unquantized your models are, all the type of things. So overbuying is not a risk. I don't see that very often, but
Yeah, and I
the
guess you're
underbuying
essentially
piece
just
is
buying
a major problem.
yeah, and I guess you're essentially just buying additional years of relevancy for the
Right.
machine you're spending your money on.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think about this a lot. So, like, okay, traditionally these days, I have been a Mac user, right? Like, and I have an M2, and every time a new M series comes out, I'm always like, man, do I just shell the $5,000 and get that, like, 96
Got it.
gigabytes unified memory or whatever. And every time I'm like, no, because next year there's going to be another
Right.
one that comes out that's going to be even better. And so I've been delaying and delaying and delaying. But then now that I have a Dell Pro Max that has a 24 gigabyte dedicated GPU, and I see all the models I can actually run on it,
Right.
I like a lot of the stuff that I would want to do, I could probably do on that, and
Right.
I could probably do into the future. To your point about on models getting smaller, I guess the
Exactly.
question is, w- w- like, what is the real value? I have an answer to this, but what
Okay.
is the real benefit of being able to run models on your own PC? Besides, like, we talked about comfy.
Right.
Comfy is great. You can make images, you can make video, but unless your workflow has to deal with that, or you're just doing it for fun, like there's also LM Studio, which is
Right.
you
Which
can
I use
run
all the
like
time.
yeah, you can run like a GPT level AI, even one from OpenAI, the GPT OSS, directly on your computer, and that's like you can run it offline. You
Mhm.
don't have any data going over the cloud,
Yep.
and you own it in perpetuity.
Right.
So, I mean, is that the ultimate use case here for
I
local AI?
I mean, here's what I'll say, and I'm gonna give you kind of a two-part answer, is that I'm gonna break it down for the business slash data scientist, then I'll give you kind of like the normal person knowledge worker, right? The
Great.
real value, and I see this all the time, is, with companies that have a data center, have some GPUs in their data center. First off, as much as people might like to think, money is not unlimited at corporations. Meaning, like, yeah, we might be worth billions of dollars, or we did, like, there is money, there's people that have to be paid, like, there's all these things. And the money is not unlimited. And I'll be honest, most of the time, generally, is when you see things like, I won't name the company, but maybe a year and a half ago, you saw maybe an airline um, have some issues. We won't say the name. I fly them all the time, but that's because they did not update their hardware infrastructure. And that's kind of the same thing that I've seen with AIs. They'll buy something and won't update, but there's more and more people that are getting excited and want to access it. The value of local is, I cannot tell you how many people I've seen that are data science developer or whatever, who are like, man, I want to get some time in the data center. And they're backed out 3 months, or they're backed out
Mm,
2 weeks, or they're like, hey, we can't afford you to run this experimentation for 2 days. Will give you 1 day, to the point where I'm not, this is not an
Yeah.
open AI comment, it's not a meta comment, but just general companies in general. I think AI from their development and kind of some of the stuff they're trying to do is being impacted because the access to the data center
Right.
and those shared resources are limited, and it's stifling creativity. Like, I work with this company to the point where they were using cloud and they were like, oh my God, like, I don't want to develop my
Yeah.
tool anymore because I cannot afford another bill. Like, I just can't,
mm,
to the point where their creativity and their thought and like was shut down. So the local AI value of that, let's use, Grant, the Dell Pro Max Plus that you have, all of that experimentation you can run on a Pro Max. Now, is it going to run as fast as the data center? Absolutely not, because you're not talking hundreds and hundreds of gigs of VRAM. You're talking 24. But you can piece and parse out and do smaller experiments to test. And then instead of being stifled, I mean, dude, I don't know how long you work. I only try to work 8 to 10 hours a day. I let that stuff run on my computer overnight. It's done. And then I kind of have my answer, right? That's the
yeah.
value of local, because you can test and experiment. It makes you faster. It's safer, all that. So
You'll
that's
then need to use
Yeah.
that
correct.
to, like, justify getting the time at the big
Correct.
data centers, like,
Correct.
you're like, "Hey, I proved
Correct.
this, it's impressive." Yeah.
Correct. And you're talking, a $5,000 system versus, you get like one of our, Dell, like I'm not a server guy, but an XE96 70 or 60 or 80 or whatever the model is. I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, because each one of those GPUs is $30,000, like, or more. So I think that's kind of what I would say about the real value of local AI for like a business data scientist company. The real value of local AI, and I'm gonna give you, there's so many cool things. And like with Comfy for a marketer, dude, it's great. Like, it's great to use, but honestly, it's just fun. And that's what I think of Comfy UI is, like, it's just kind of
It's
this
true.
chintzy, fun tool that, like, I can turn a Dell logo into a fire with a zombie in the background eating it. Like, you know what I mean? It's just cool. But there's practical use cases. But the real value of AI, and I don't think, I think there's been a couple of seminal moments. Like I think when, the original Chat GPT opened and people, it was how many ever downloaded, how many or used how many times in the first month or whatever. That was kind of a seminal moment. I I think the real seminal moment will become, and I'm gonna give you a perfect example, is every use case for like a normal person or a knowledge worker is a little different, right? Is like I use Comfy AI, like I said, only because of I want to set things on fire and make cool little images because they're fun.
I'm the
But I don't really
same.
have I'm the same. And I just I don't have much value it during the day because that's not the job I do.
Yeah.
But I also do, the Reshaping Workflows podcast. And someone in marketing was like, hey, Logan, what you're talking about and the partners you have and video and all this is great. We want to turn this into a blog post. I was like, dear God, because there's nothing
Oh
more
no.
than I hate than to one, hear the sound of my own voice. And two is to set and listen to a 30, 40-minute, hour-long episode and type out notes. So I was like, how do I solve this problem? Because I don't want to spend an hour doing this. It's a waste of my time. Well, because I had a GPU, I was able to go find a free model from NVIDIA. It's called NVIDIA Parakeet. It was it was V2, but now there's V3. It does a lot more European languages, but you're able to very simply, so easy. Well, maybe not my mom could do it or my dad, but like most people who can read instructions or read Reddit or can like piece things together. It was very simple, set up a virtual environment on my PC, downloaded Nemo, instantiated the models, etc. to where I loaded a 38-minute episode and it transcribed that audio file and punctuated it and time stamped it in about 15 seconds. And then I did exactly what you said, Grant, is I put in
Yep.
LM Studio. He used ChatGPT's OSS model, asked, hey, what's a good blog post structure? What's it look like? Hey, here's the transcription, which was 75 pages long, and said, hey, write me a blog post that, follows your advice. And there's my blog post. Literally took me from downloading it to maybe 3 or 4
Wow.
minutes versus an hour. And that, so it's hard. I think it's hard to describe the value of AI for kind of a knowledge worker or someone at home until they find or see that use case that really like speaks to them and solves a problem. And I don't think we've really gotten to that place. I think AI is really focused on a lot of corporations and stuff like that. I'll give you another example. I was at IBC, which is the International Broadcasters something something something. It's in Amsterdam, and one of my favorite, even though it is AI, it's more computational, but is Gaussian splats and nerfs, right? Where you basically take a 2D image, you turn it into a 3D reconstruction. You can like go inside it, visualize it. So a lot of companies use it for like, hey, I want to build a 3D world of my factory or this part, or surgeons will take a 3D scan of a patient to practice surgery. So they're like, whoops, I cut the wrong spot. Oh, well, that was the digital person, not the real person. So there's a lot of that. But I was at this and we had a really cool setup in our booth. And it was my buddy, Mike Rubloff, who's like, I'm not going to say the foremost world's expert on it, but he's pretty damn good, man. Like he knows what he's doing. And he sent me a bunch of pictures for this demo where it's him sitting on a bench in a park. And I was showing the demo and it just comes to life and everyone sees it and you can go in and navigate around. But the person was watching was a wedding photographer and their mind was blown. Like you could just see it on their face. I was talking and they're like, so you mean to tell me that this tool, which is called PostShot, and I can send you all the link to put it down below, but I can take pictures because I'm a wedding photographer. So you're saying I could recreate and capture these images of a couple's first kiss where they could be able to
Yep.
relive that in 3D for the rest of their life. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
And I'm
I
going to
mean,
sell
Like,
that
it was
for
like
$1
kaboom
billion.
because it's more money. Oh, I know. And it's all free tools, but you just need a GPU, right? And there's
yeah.
additional revenue, add-on packages. It's just a cool factor. And I mean, to be honest, like my wife will never listen to this, so I'm going to say it, is we got married in 2011. I don't remember the ceremony at all, man. I was so freaking nervous the whole time. I know we got married on a beach. I can tell you who was there, but I don't
Yeah.
remember our first kiss. Like, it's not that I don't love her. It's just, it's been time. And how cool would it
Right.
be to be able to relive that moment and show that to our daughter where you could go in and actually from every angle see that. It's so
And I think
cool.
here's where the local part comes in, because some of this stuff you were saying you could totally do on the cloud with
course.
OpenAI and Claude. You have to pay them.
Right.
On your computer, you don't have to pay them. But the key thing here is
Yes.
you might not want to upload your wedding photos to the
Correct.
cloud, to OpenAI and Anthropic,
Correct.
where they're going to keep it, indefinitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still don't know what happens to data when it goes in there.
Correct.
But you can do that on your computer with your own photos, or like, if you give permission to a professional, they could do it for you and give it to you, and it's done locally on their computer, and then they can delete it.
Correct.
So you have control over your
Yes.
data when you do it locally, which I think is a huge thing that people need to remember.
I
And
I agree with that. Let me make another point. It kind of tags onto that. Is that
Yes.
in a business setting, exactly what you're saying. But let's just use the wedding photographer. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm not trying to stereotype wedding photographers. I'm going to go out on a limb and say not very many of them
I think that's a
know how to
fair
go spin
assessment.
up an AWS instance and like use S3. Probably not, right? So for certain people in certain use cases, hey, cloud is an option. But it's complicated enough on a PC to do it, and it's local and it's there and all your instructions. There's no instructions on how to spin up
Because
Parakeet
I
in
look.
the cloud. I'll tell you that
right,
because I looked.
that's true.
And it's a tiny model. It's a tiny model. I mean, it's like, I think
Yeah.
500 million parameters, 400. It's not very big. It's tiny. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that is the real value because just I will never forget this. I mean, I remember this more than my kiss on my wedding, but it was just her face and just like the oh my God like moment. And until we have either a seminal moment where it's something like Chat GPT where everyone uses, or people have these own kind of real epiphany moments, that is when I believe AI is just going to be just up
Yeah.
and to the right in the high hockey stick.
The
But those
ability to
have to
save
happen.
an avatar of your lost loved one, maybe.
Correct.
That
I mean, yeah, reconstruct an image of our dog who's aging, who's 15, that hopefully will
yeah.
never die. It'll be a very sad day. But could you imagine being able to reconstruct him swimming in the pool when he was 3 years old?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
man.
cool, man. Like it's so
It's
cool.
awesome. Yeah.
It's awesome. And it goes beyond just, hey, cool little image. It's like something from
Yeah.
your life. Like it's awesome. And that's where I think local gives anyone the ability, but it just takes a little bit of like research or understanding to do that. And that's why I love going to events and talking, because just seeing those people's faces, and like that epiphany moment.
Real quick, what tool do you use to spin up, like, let's say a local model like Parakeet, or let's say like what did you say, Gaussian blotting? I've
Yeah,
never said that word out
you
loud. I've read it.
okay.
Yeah,
So, well, two
yeah.
different things. I mean, it'll depend on what I'm doing, right? So I would echo your sentiment. Like, hey, you're listening right now to this conversation. You've done less than 1 hour's worth of AI stuff in your life. Please do me a solid. Go to, I think it's lmstudio.ai or something like that. I can't
Uh-huh.
remember the URL. That is that I would say that is like a
We have a
meal
live
delivery
tutorial on that
service.
we can link as well.
Yeah.
Like, okay, perfect. Yeah, link that.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
It's
Yeah, and
so
easy to
awesome.
use.
So awesome.
Yeah.
It is a meal delivery service. You just have to warm up the meal. You select your models. It does everything for you. That's kind of like
You run
level one.
Parakeet through there?
No, I mean, that's level one.
Okay,
Level two
gotcha.
is what you're talking about with Parakeet, where you have to have a little bit of technical knowledge, where you're going to have to, for example, go to GitHub, clone a model. You're going to have to then set up a virtual environment within, I mean, I like Windows. I'm becoming more of an Ubuntu fan. That's neither here or there, but run it either in WSL or Ubuntu or whatever. And you're going to have to, download Start Nemo, install some dependencies, instantiate the model, da 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 da. That's kind of the second level. It's still not hard. I compare that to kind of like a food, like a meal delivery service, kind of like HelloFresh, where all the things are out there and all the instructions are there. You just kind of have to follow it.
Yeah.
That's where I will do the Parakeet, or if I'll do like a LoRa training or something like that. That's kind of where I'm at. That's middle layer. That's kind of middle technical. And then what I call like advanced is there are no instructions. You have zero idea and you just go figure it out.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is not a level that I would say many people are
You're
on.
writing Python in this case, PyTorch for
You're
me.
actually
Yeah,
writing, you're doing all of that.
yeah.
You're modifying underlying codes, like you're changing weights and biases. You're changing the data orchestration layer. It's stuff I don't think any of us three could do. And
No.
that's where you're talking about true data scientist, machine learning engineer, algorithm developer. That's why they get paid so much. But
Yeah.
Wait until somebody makes a, like, desktop app that can do that.
yeah, I know. Well, I
Like,
mean,
Coming.
that's what I
yeah,
think those seminal moments are. It's like the
Yeah.
first time I used LM Studio, I'm like, wait, this is free? You have all these models, and literally all I have to do is navigate to this button and click which one I want to download, and then I just kind of talk to it. I was like,
yeah.
this is, and I
And
mean,
everything
honestly, I
I'm
don't know.
doing lives right here. Yeah.
And it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. It's free. I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's
Forever,
amazing.
like
Forever.
let's say there is an AI crash and all of a sudden, let's God forbid one of these companies goes down or like the whole economy goes down or whatever. You will still have AI, artificial intelligence on your computer no matter what. Like it is an investment in your future, which I that's why I think we talk about it here so much, Corey,
Yeah.
right? Because it's something that like no matter what happens with the rest of the world, you can teach yourself how to do and you can have it as long as you want.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
It's
agree.
your,
And
it's your apocalypse-proof prepper tool.
yeah,
No joke. People are downloading the entire Wikipedia like to their computer. Like there's a
really.
tool that lets you do this, and then they can spin it up and talk to it with RAG.
Honestly, I'm going to
which
do
RAG
that.
is
I'm going to do that.
yeah.
It's such a great idea.
Honestly, everyone should. I'll include the link to the tool that lets you do this.
Yeah, I would. I want that because that, I mean, and that's who would have ever thought of that use case, right? But it's a great,
Yeah.
it's a great use
Mhm.
case. Like it's like Prepper Guide 101. It's like you think food and like, yeah, you need those, but like,
Yeah.
do
I
you know
need
how
to
to grow
know how to
crops?
make a meal out of an elm tree and pond
Right.
water. You know?
Yeah. Do you know how to start a fire? Do you know without using gas or something? Like, do you know these
Yeah.
things? Like, I
Now,
don't know.
granted, if you're in that situation, you probably don't have power to power your phone.
Probably true. I mean, probably
Unless
true, but you never know. You
yeah,
might have
yeah.
decent battery life on your Pro Max where
Or
you
a
could
good
log in
solar
just as
rig.
from, or a solar rig or something. And I love doing that too. Is like the thing about connected AI versus disconnected that I always say is, and I'll usually do this in any demo or talk I'll do, is for people to
Yeah.
understand is to get those models, you have to be on the internet. But then once you've got it locally, I could literally I could disable my wireless card. I could disable my Bluetooth card and it will all run. Now,
Yeah.
it will never get any better or worse. It's the same. It's like a balance
Correct.
sheet. It's locked in, but it's pretty cool to see what it can do just by having that on there. And I think that's a great use case. I mean, I would tell everyone, regardless of what PC you have, go get LM Studio, play around with it. But we talked about this, and I want to talk about this as like the prepping and like the future is, and kind of a word of caution, because I thought about it after I had you guys, on reshaping workflows, is like
Mhm.
like it taking away our cognitive ability a little bit. And
Mm.
I thought about that a lot last night. And I was just like, God, and I'll give you the example that I gave, when you guys were on the show, was a mom, my daughter plays competitive softball, was like previously to, chat GPT on your phone, it was all the team wants to eat. Okay. Well, we know we're in Houston. We know we're in Baytown. We know we want Mexican food. So then it's a quick Google, but outside of that, you got to make the decision. How many, there's all these inputs, right? How many reviews? What's the wait time? How many tables? Like, is there bad review? Whatever. You have all these inputs. And then you have to use your brain to say which one fits the best situation for us. And it might take you calling, or it might take reading a few reviews. And I think that's very good and
Yeah.
healthy for our brains to have to make those little micro decisions. But the mom in this case went to Chat GPT and basically asked, hey, we're in Baytown, Texas. We want to eat Mexican. We have 20 people in our group. We want to make sure it has margaritas because our team's sucking right now. We need to drink. And,
Yeah.
we want a fun atmosphere or whatever it was.
Wow.
And it was like, boom, just one, boom, decision made. Now, there are times I
Yeah.
understand that we all get very busy with life and we're very busy with life, but I am concerned generally after I've spent a little time thinking about this is that it, it it's kind of like with my daughter. I've always tried to get her, I've never tried to give her
Yeah.
the answer. I've always said, well, what do you think? Or, hey, what's your opinion? Or, hey, like, here's two different points. Which one do you align with?
Yeah.
And I think that's very healthy for us as humans, because to get to this point through evolution, it is a cumulative bunch of decisions that we have made as humanity that have gotten us here. But with AI, that decision-making power
Yeah.
is a little not there. Like, yeah, you can make the
Mm.
decision to use AI or not, but we will all eventually do the same thing. And I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I am worried that, is it like an idiocracy type
Yeah.
situation? Like, do you know what I mean? And that's what I thought about. And
Very
I was like,
possible.
where you're just not even thinking. Like,
My
I don't know.
first
It's scary now that I think about it. And you guys put that thought in my head.
My first thought is that with every innovation, they've told us it was gonna make us dumb. With the
True.
television, with the personal computer, with the mobile
Calculator.
phone, with video games, with movies, we've always heard that. Now, that's not a perfect comparison to AI, which actually does the thing. However, we've come out of all of those, in my opinion, a smarter human race, for lack of a better phrase. And I really think there are absolutely people who are going to use this in a way that does that. But my hope is that with good education and teaching people how to use this to make yourself better, I think there is opportunity there for people to be even more intelligent than they've ever been before. With as far as the idea of how to learn with the tool, how to use the tool to learn. But, like, I did think very similar to what you're talking about. Last Friday night, we've been trying to get my wife a real ID because 'cause we're trying to travel.
Okay.
She's
And
gotta
that's the one
have
with the
one.
star on it, right? Or
Yeah, that's the
whatever.
one with
Yeah.
the star that you can't fly in America without
Oh
now.
my God.
So, to get one, I was checking we live in suburban St. Louis, and I was checking DMVs and, like, some of them, 'em, they're all on different website systems.
Oh yeah.
None of them book the same. Not all of them even have booking, and I got so mad, and I went to ChatGPT agent, and I finally said, "Hey, I need an appointment to get a real ID on Tuesday morning at a Missouri DMV within 150 miles of my house. Please go search them all. Come back with an appointment." And it came back with one 20 minutes from my door. And we walked in at 9 o'clock in the morning and we were out in 20. And I was like, I will never go to the DMV without doing this again.
I mean, I
Uh,
love that use case,
like,
by the
like
way.
that's a use case that's like, here's a thing I hate. I don't want to deal with that. Um, but I think to your point, there's definitely a risk of that, and there will be people that that absolutely happens to. I think the key, though, is that we've gotta remain curious as people, and I
Right.
think that means when you're having a conversation with someone and they say something you don't really know about, jot yourself a note and go ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT to talk to you about it later. Learn about it. Use the tool to help you learn, even if it's just reading and talking to you, as long as you're still intaking that information in a way that is helpful. I think there are ways to combat this, that will leave us better than we were before. That is the that is the techno optimist in my soul, of course, that
Right.
really hopes that, this is all gonna end great and it's gonna save the world, but I think we'll see people go both ways.
Yeah.
I'll give the bear case to that, but I'll try to not depress you.
Okay.
so, 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 so I think that it is a industry-wide problem. I think it is a society-wide problem, and it's an individual problem. So each person is going to have to decide for themselves, like, where do I want to offload my thinking to the AI? Like for the DMV example is a great case. Like, yeah, it's not worth my time to do that.
Transcribing my podcast that I already recorded, I had to prep for that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm aligned with that 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there are those use cases that are just make common sense, it makes perfect sense. But like, let's say you want to be a software engineer and you're now offloading all of your thinking to Codex or Claude Code, and you're not learning anything that you're doing on the back end. There's a way to do it where you are, where you basically you send a request, then you go read the code, then you ask questions about the code. What is this? What does this function do? Then you read it yourself and try to say, okay, I understand, I can see here to here it does this and
Yeah.
that, and you're wrestling with it, but that still takes time. That's not saving you the time that an agent would when you could just ask it to build you software and it builds you software. The demo that they gave on Monday was just like incredible how good this thing is getting. So the question is, well, on an individual level, do I personally want to learn this or not? Or do I just personally want to have done this? But then when you apply that at the industry wide level,
Right.
like all the incentives are there for them to create tools to basically do everything for us because they
Yeah.
can sell it to companies. And then at a society wide level, well, we want the GDP growth, well, we want this and that, we want to be, we want to improve technology, but like, and we're in a global race, to create AGI, whether or not you subscribe to whether we should or shouldn't do that. Um, so there's all of these incentives that is pushing us to like automate as much as possible. So like maybe the companies are going to, try and automate as much as possible. Maybe governments are going to try and automate as much as possible. I think it has to be something that we build into the design and we think about
Yeah,
ethically. And right now, I don't see any incentives to do that.
I agree with you, Grant. Like, and
Mhm.
and this is not meant to, cast aspersions on us as humans, but generally, not everyone, but a lot of humans will always take the path of least resistance.
Yeah, of
I have
course,
done that.
designed to do that.
We're designed for comfort.
Yes.
That's where we're at. We're designed for comfort and, safety and all this kind of stuff. And you're right. There's a lot of economic incentives, individual incentives. There's not going to be that person. It's like, hey, I want to go play college softball, but I'm not going to put in the work. Well, there will be people that'll put in the work, but that's why there's only a very small percentage that do, right? And
Yeah.
I think the solve of the problem, and you bring up an interesting point. I won't talk about the coding agent because that's a whole other thing. But in using the use case of like answering questions for my daughter, right? I think it's something very easy where it's instead of me giving you the answer, let me give you three alternatives, and you just code that in to the point where hey, here's three things, and then I can then ask a question about like hey, what's the benefits of each one,
Yeah.
and like being able to then think through all of that and help your reasoning process. And then,
I
yeah,
love
you
that.
could blindly pick one, sure. But like, I think humans' natural curiosity would say, well, I got three, like, let me ask and see what it says. And I think that's something that we should think about. And like, not, and I hate government regulation. I'm not saying that, but like, just
Yeah.
Right.
ethically, like, something that should be put in because I don't know, man. And I did watch Idiocracy, and I'm just like,
I watched it
are
2
we
weeks
getting
ago, funny enough.
dude, I know. I was like, I watched it on an airplane. I was like, oh my God, like, are we literally getting our law degrees at Costco here? Like, because, because think
At
about like,
ChatGPT.
yeah,
Yeah.
Chat GPT. Like, I mean, think about coding, right? Go back, a couple years ago. You either one had to learn it. I mean, you may not know what to school for it, but you had to learn it and you had to practice it and you had to do exactly what you said, Grant. You had to learn and understand and all that. That's what made you great as a software, dev or engineer or designer or whatever. Or you went to school and had a more traditional path, certification, whatever. But now, and this is the scary part for me, is I don't have any traditional training in writing Python code. But with Claude and other things that I use, I can write enough I can use it enough to fix little gaps and things that I'm doing, which would have absolutely roadblocked me versus
Uh,
you imagine giving that to my daughter who knows nothing and can play around with it. That is and it almost, and it's weird that we haven't seen an acceleration of people who have more of these skills. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? That's kind of weird. You think like we never have enough engineers. We never have enough, software devs. We never have enough this. But now you have a tool that can more or less do the damn job for you, but we're not seeing an explosion of those people. Unless you tell me I'm wrong.
I think you're gonna see more people needing to become I jokingly like to say that I'm tech literate. Like I can carry on enough of a conversation. I could tell what I'm mostly looking
Right.
at when I'm looking at code other people created, but the idea of me just sitting down from scratch and opening up a terminal window to do it is not
Right.
a thing that's at least currently in my wheelhouse. But I can recognize problems. I could change dimensions. I
Right.
could swap a library out. I could, some of the basics like that. And I think there will come a time where just those simple skills will be enough to carry you a long way. But essentially somebody's still got to be around to, I guess, fix it. Um, but, when you think about coding even, and I know this is a rabbit hole, we were talking about how you could go back. You could go back 10 years and that's when you could start going to like boot camps and stuff and learn coding, get a real job. And 10 years before that, you were in a university though, where you were taking the most intensive math courses the college had to
Right.
offer. And working your way through linear algebra and calculus and a variety of other things, probability and statistics. And they kinda streamlined around a lot of that into people who are working and have been for a number of years now.
so I think like to Logan's point about, you're not seeing a lot of people, all of a sudden explode and have this skill and get hired. I think what's happened, well, there's been multiple studies and like think pieces about this that basically says the people who have the skills are getting better at it.
Yes.
And people are able to learn new skills faster, but there's not as much of a transition from like people who have new skills that are learning them into the roles. It's more so like we can do less we could do more with less, not less people, although I
Right.
think there might be some of that happening, and there probably will be a lot more. But
Yeah.
like me as an engineer now, if I'm like a senior dev at some
Mm,
company, I can do a lot more. I don't have to go hire someone
right.
to do it. So what I believe, my personal stance on this, and why I think everyone should have local tools and be teaching themselves as much as possible, is I think everyone is gonna like this is going to make a flattening of the job market, if you
Yeah.
would. Like, I think there's going to be more small companies, and sooner or later, there will be a tool that can help people go from end to end to launch software, and you will see this explosion of shovelware that, as it's
Right.
called, is like where you're just shoving it out the door. But we just haven't got there because it's still with coding. It's still at the level where like you do need to know like all of the ins and outs to deploy it and actually get it
Right.
running and actually share it. And distribution is always going to be the problem with a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff. So it might exist, but you might not have
Yeah.
access to it.
Well, and I think you made a good point, and my opinion is that I don't want to eliminate jobs, like not
Yeah.
down for that. But you're very much right, is that some people do take that approach, but you can definitely do more with less input,
Yes.
right? And I think that you made a point earlier that I think was really interesting, is that, and I don't know why, like, and I'm not talking about like the comfy UI type thing, but if you think about just general AI tools that I read about in the Neuron every day, right? The treats to try. If I'm being honest, like, and you see this stuff, it is very enterprise corporate focused. Like,
Mm,
at least I get that feeling. It's like if you were to go and survey a lot of the companies in that, it would be like, hey, we're B2B. There might be a few
Yeah.
B2C, right? But most of it's B2B. And I think you're right, and the point you made earlier is that a lot of it is kind of focused on, the churn of businesses, like being able to like get yourself in the door and all that because they have money. But I think what's underserved is a lot of B2C use cases, like generally. And I think
mm.
that that is even, like I said, back to the original point, it was like the value of local compute
Yeah.
is, and I think ChatGPT does both, but it was kind of consumer first, right? But it's these tools that, I mean, being able to put, you know, a sensor in your fridge that does computer vision that ties to your phone to tell you that you're almost out of milk and you need to reorder it.
Or that you could make hamburger helper tonight. That's all you're able to make.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
I love that.
Um, I think we'll see a shift towards that too, because yes, business spending power is great, but consumer spending power is much more.
Mm, that's
At
true.
least I think.
Yeah,
And more
I think we'll
loose.
see it. I think it's just, like to your point, people go where the money is, and
Right.
B2B is like where the money
Right,
is
true.
with a lot of
Yeah.
this stuff.
True. Well, and you're selling to
Um,
one
so
business versus 100 consumers, right? For the same amount
Yeah.
of revenue or
yeah,
whatever. Um,
exactly. It's slightly easier in
Exactly.
that regard.
Well, Logan, before we let you go, we always like to ask what's in your personal AI stack right now? What models are you using? Tools along those ways?
well, we kind of talked about Parakeet. We talked about Gaussian splatting, which I'll send you
Yeah.
the link of that. PostShot is
Mhm.
amazing. PostShot is a free tool. It's called JawSet PostShot. Um, I'll tell you real quick is that it is AI-ish because there is the computational AI to put, because you're basically taking, let's just say, you've got my bottle here. You're taking images all the way around from different focal points. And even though those are separate images, what happens with a nerve, for guys who find it all kind of a point cloud, is it all puts it together to make a 3D representation, right? And I really love any free tool. I use Ellen Studio all the time. I use that. I use Parakeet. Um, I'm another big one that I use, and I don't know if anyone uses it. I feel like it's kind of under the radar, and maybe it's not, but I did this project, and I can't. Well, I'm going to allude to what it was, and then I'll give you the link to it. But so
Okay.
basically, it's working with this animation studio,
Uh-huh.
and very popular. They have shows on Netflix. They've been around for 25 years. Maybe vampires. I don't know if you can figure that out and read between the lines. But what they wanted to do with AI was, hey, to create a storyboard is like really expensive. It takes a lot of time, and no one really likes to do it. Can you take every show that they've done, so many shows, all of our shows, all of this, every episode, and create me a lore that would, and it's kind of artsy, right? I'm not artsy, but the line density, shading, color, gradient, like capture all of this where we could use that to impart like, hey, we're going to do this other show to kind of storyboard out what we wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I use my Pro Max trained to LoRa, but a lot of people that do LoRa's, they do, God, what is it like? The one, I can't remember the name of the one tool. Like everyone seems to use it. Like, it's like one LoRa or something. It's like everyone uses. I used Kohi for a while,
Uh-huh.
Kohy, but I found this one. I don't know if anyone uses it, and you should. It's called OneTrainer. Have you ever used it?
No.
No,
Dude,
I've not heard of this.
dude, bro, download OneTrainer from GitHub. It is dope. It is
This is awesome.
it's one, the GUI for it, way better. It allows so much more tweaks and parameters. Actually gives you, because Koei gives you zero instructions. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like you take the standard, you play around with it, and if you don't get it right, it just doesn't work. One trainer's got really good documentation. I mean, you're able to change weights. You can go
Oh,
precision
wow.
up, down, multiple GPUs. Like you can actually train instead of training like in Koei, like I would train, okay, here's all the images, right? You can do concepts. So I could train it by concept
Ooh.
and use keywords for concept versus like stock keywords. Cause in Koei,
Yeah.
you have all these images, like, and you have to tag them and all this, but I knew what they were. So I used the concept feature. It's great. It's free. And the other great part about it, Koei will kind of tell you how much longer is left, like sort of, it'll kind of give you like a range, but this one will give you like, here is exactly where I'm at. And it'll let you click and show a test of your training anytime you want. So I'll click at 20% to see the image. Then I'll go at 40, 60. So you can actually see it develop. And as you develop, I've gotten to the part where I burn stuff in where it's just like gobbledygook because I overtrained it. You can play around and stop it at 60 because you're like, oh, this is perfect. Stop right here.
Yeah.
Dude, one trainer, man.
I've already
That's
pulled it up. I'm
awesome.
gonna check it out here later this
Yeah,
afternoon. You've
one
got me
trainer.
excited.
Yeah, one
We'll
trainer,
include
man.
a link.
Yeah, do it,
Yeah.
man. One trainer is good. And like, that's the other thing is like, what I love about AI is I love the homegrown, open source, free, where you've got some guy or gal who's just really damn smart, who just took their time to develop this. And that type of stuff, before you ever go out and buy anything, if you can find something like that, I would much rather use that because you're going to be able to talk to that person. You're going to get support. You're going to go to the
Yeah.
GitHub page, ask a question, they'll respond. I would
Tom,
always look for
help.
some,
Yeah.
please help. Yeah, exactly. Always look for the free stuff first. And I mean, obviously, if you're a business and you have security, whatever, figure that out yourself. But for the consumer, I'm talking to the consumer right now, is
Yeah.
look for the free stuff first because I will almost guarantee you something really good exists. You're just not looking on GitHub or Hugging Face or in the right spot to find it.
All right, let's do a couple lightning round questions here. Like, just off the cuff, just
Sure.
your general thoughts.
Okay.
So what is the next 2 to 3 years outlook like for hardware and
Ooh.
AI?
I mean, I'll say this is that we at Dell typically release systems on a 2 to 3 year cycle, right? And if I was to predict, say, 3 years out, and I know NVIDIA's kind of development cycle, I think there's two big things that you're going to see is typically NVIDIA, every other GPU, dedicated GPU release, and this is not like insider information, you can go research this yourself, is most of the time at the top of the stack, there's improvements every time. But like Ampere, 6,000, 48 gigs. Ada, 6,000, 48 gigs. Now Blackwell went up to 96. I think what you're going to see in the next round of GPU release, it will not be the top of the stack, will not be 96. I don't know if it's going to double, but I think there is the demand and they have the ability to kind of take that a little out of cycle. The other thing that we're going to see 3 years from now, and this is, once again, I'm going to qualify it, Logan Lawler's opinion, no insider
Yep.
information, is that NVIDIA at GTC announced, Spark, which is their Founders Edition. And will be, not, I don't know when we're releasing this, but at the time of recording, we have not released our Dell Pro Max GB10. So what you're going to see, and this is Logan's looking, is traditionally AI has been local, has been very much dedicated GPU. There's a reason why NVIDIA, I believe, is going to more of this system on a chip ARM design, both in their server products and their local workstation products. Microsoft, you can Google it. To power their data center, they went out and bought a nuclear power plant at 3 Mile Island. Like, and that's not an exaggeration. That is the level of
Hmm.
power. They bought 3 Mile Island. I mean, like literally for
Yeah.
the nuclear power plant, and dedicated GPUs, servers, cooling, all of that. AI will only reach a certain space because there's not enough power in the world unless we want to just drop a nuclear power plant in your backyard.
Yeah.
However, with the system on a chip kind of ARM design, it is not as powerful yet, but it is very, very power efficient. And
Yeah.
what I think you're going to see is 3 years from now, 2.5 years from now, we'll launch new Dell Pro Max products. Instead of having a separate Intel or AMD processor, separate RAM, well, hard drive will always be separate, but RAM, GPU, and this, you're going to see products that are all integrated in
Yeah.
because of the
Mm.
power. That's why, for example, I hate you for this, Grant, but you had your Mac, right? Why is it awesome? Because the battery life's great. That's because it's an ARM
Yeah.
design. That's why
Yeah.
NVIDIA tried to buy ARM. Like, I
Mm.
think that's where they're going
Yeah.
because they know for NVIDIA to scale and AI to continue to grow from a, let me say, from a computational standpoint. If we want to reach
Yeah.
AGI or we want to do crazy things, you can't build nuclear power plants everywhere. Like, you just can't.
Yeah.
Like, how do we get more efficient? So two big things
Yeah.
is I think you'll see an out of cycle dedicated GPU jump in VRAM. And I think you're going to see a lot more NVIDIA specific. I mean, it's also interesting investment in Intel. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just
Saw
throwing it
that.
out there. Just throwing it out there. No insider information. Seriously. Just hypothetical guesses like everyone else. But I think that system on a chip you're going to start seeing um,
Yeah.
become the
Yeah.
commonplace.
That whole integrated memory idea where it can be either your RAM, your VRAM,
Or
it's
GPU.
all
Yeah.
one bank.
It is one integrated component that has, I mean, RGB10 is 128 gigs of dedicated CPU, GPU, RAM, and it levers up and down dynamically based on the work and task that you're doing,
Yeah.
which is very cool. If you're doing AI, I mean, it loads a 200 billion parameter model on this. Pretty dope, like
Yeah.
in terms of what you can
Yeah.
do. But you're doing something that's more memory intensive, great. Or you're doing something more CPU, that's great too. And there's a lot of advantages with it because you're not, and this is what I think people don't understand is, and this is not like a rapid fire question. I'm giving you like all these technical answers, but I know, sorry. Next one I'll make more rapid. But
Okay.
in a system, you have your processor, your RAM, your GPU. That data has to go bing, 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 bing. That takes time. And yes, the GPU accelerates
Mhm.
that, parallel processing, all that, but that transition, it takes time. And now it's milliseconds, it's like no time at all, but it still slows things down. That integrated chip, it's there.
Yeah.
There's no bouncing, there's no delay, there's no latency, there's no lag.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other benefit of a system on a chip is not just the power, but it's the speed, memory bandwidth, and all that kind of stuff. So
100%.
next
So
one,
would
I
you say
promise,
this
will
is
be shorter.
them? Would you say that this is them redesigning? Because I've been thinking like computers need to change, like the operating system needs to change, like the hardware needs to change for this new paradigm. If this really is computing V2, do you think the system on the chip is kind of like that hardware? That's how hardware is going to change.
I think that you're specifically with AI, you're going to see a lot more system on a chip. There are a few things like, for example, and I'll say broader with our team, GPUs support any parallel computing, CUDA enabled, like engineering, ISVs, media entertainment, Adobe Premiere, all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's all Windows based. None of those run on, none of those really run on Ubuntu, right? Or Linux.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that what you're going to see is a shift, and I'm going through the shift as well. I've been I was a DOS guy back in '88, and then I've been a
Remember DOS?
Windows. Oh, I remember DOS. You're putting in the 5.5-inch floppy and
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it is great. But yeah, I've been on the Windows journey from kind of the very beginning, and now I'm definitely on the Ubuntu train because I have to be. And I think what you're going to start seeing is that like WSL and other kind of emulators are going to get a lot better where you can do, AI, Linux, Ubuntu work. Um, but I think you're going to see more people just either from a development standpoint, develop for Windows, or people are going to have to start learning Ubuntu
Yeah.
because that's the only way it's going to work.
I agree.
I think at some point they've got to train an AI model to like make it so easier to port to different systems. Like
Yeah.
an
I mean,
AI that
honestly,
can
that's
like
a great
port
use
from
case.
Yeah.
Someone should make this. Why is no one making this? Like, make it really easy to port from Windows to Linux. Make it really easy to port from Windows to Linux to like Swift or
I mean,
whatever Mac
honestly, that's
uses.
a
Like,
really smart use case because, like, I mean, it's not that you know how to do it, but like, it's defined in the way that you need to do it, and then like you
yeah,
start. I mean, that's actually a great idea.
Viewers, go
someone
forth,
like
build,
Hey,
and
somebody
come see
listening,
us.
go do it, and then
AI researchers
pay
train
grant for the
this.
idea.
Train this because like you see all these cool tools that'll launch on Product Hunt and it'll be someone doing Mac only. Like we have codecs, we have all
Sure.
these coding agents. Why can't you a solo developer can only pick one right now,
Right.
but that should be the most obvious use case is
Yep.
like make it so that it can be universally ported
Right.
to other
I
Yeah.
systems.
I think
And
that's
phones.
genius, and phones. Like,
Yeah, and phones exactly.
agree.
100%. Well, Logan, thanks so much for joining us today, man. This has been so much fun. Where can people go to find you on reshaping workflows?
So I will give you all the link because I don't like it's basically you can find us really on any podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, and then the usual like Pocket Casts. Like, I have an agency that does
All of the
that.
places. Yeah.
We are everywhere. But personally, and it's up to you. You guys feel free. I love talking to people, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty comfortable doing it. If you ever want to talk AI or have questions or need hardware, whatever it is, I'll give you my email. It's just Logan, Logan Lawler, Lawler @dell.com. And same on LinkedIn, just Logan.Lawler. I'm the goofy guy that might be catfishing you a little bit with my old picture, but hey, it's representative enough where you'll be able to find me. But yeah, I mean, I'm out there, travel a lot. If you ever see me, stop and say hi. And yeah, this was great, man. I appreciate it. And like I said in the beginning, I wasn't trying to blow smoke, but like I love the Neuron. Like I love what you're doing. And really educating people about AI. And I am not just hyping you up. Like I read the newsletter every single day. I learn a lot from your newsletter in terms of thing. And so I think if you're listening and at the end of the day, you don't want to jump in and start developing or do whatever, just educate yourself.
Yeah.
Get the newsletter, sign up, listen, learn. And at some point you'll see something that's going to, like that example I gave before about the wedding photography and Gaussian splats. It'll be something that's relevant to you and you jump in and then you can kind of start. But I would
Exactly.
definitely check out the Neuron. The newsletter is great. Listen to the podcast.
Thanks
Thanks,
so
Logan.
much.
We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
We love your show too, and it was great going on.
Yeah, man.
And really appreciate having you.
Absolutely.
Like I really appreciate that.
Of course.
So we'd like to give a quick thank you to our sponsor of this video, WisprFlow. Make sure to go check out their awesome AI transcription tool, whether you have an issue that makes typing difficult, or if you just want a great transcription tool so you don't have to type all day. Go check them out.
That's it for today, everyone. Farewell for now, humans.